Welcome to Puvanur Aadhi Laya Academy of Music and Mathematics. Welcome to Puvanur RBI Laya Academy of Music and Mathematics. We are now in level 5. We are in the process of learning the reduction techniques. We have learnt for Aadhi Thalam, Rupaka Thalam, Misra Thalam, Ganda Thalam. We have also seen for Ganda Tripata Thalam how to go about reducing in general. I also briefly gave you an overview of how to go about the Misra Kuraippu, an introduction in the last class. Today we are going to see at length what are all the possible combinations we can use as Misra Kuraippu in Aadhi Thalam. Before I get into the class, I will start this class with the Thirukkural. Arangindri vattu aadi attre nirambiya nool indri kotti kolal. What is the meaning of it? Nirambiya nool arivu illamal oruvan அறிவுடையோர் சபையில் சென்று பேசுதல் அரங்கம் இல்லாமல் வட்டாடுதல் போன்றதற்கு ஒப்பாகும். A person who is not knowledgeable, who is not literate enough, like a knowledgeable person, if he tries to talk before the people or the people surrounded with knowledge, it's something like he is talking, he is trying to do something where there is no assembly, there is no conference hall, but he keeps talking. It's something like Tiruvallur compares that with the blabbering of that person. So we need to be very careful when we have to showcase our knowledge. We have to be very careful and we have to open our mouth only if we know completely sure of something. That's the meaning of it. We will, with this good thought, we'll enter into the class. Last class, I introduced a little bit of how to do Misra Kuraippu in Aadhi Thalam. We will go with that base and then we will expand several ideas around it. What all we can do as part of Misra Kuraippu. It's only a tip of the iceberg. There are several aspects which we can actually explore, which we will do as part of level 6 as advanced learnings. But for now, you can understand these basic concepts which should be good enough for you to do Misra Kuraippu. So as I told you in the last class, Misra Kuraippu is nothing but, if you are going to do in Aadhi Thalam and Misra Kuraippu, Aadhi Thalam is a 8-beat cycle. So typical formula, default rule, thumb rule is one number less is you can do 7 Misra Kuraippu. So if you are playing a 9-beat cycle, one number less you can do Chatushra Kuraippu. So if it's a question, what Kuraippu you can do in some Thalam, in Rupaka Thalam, what Kuraippu you can play if somebody asks you. So one number less, Rupakam is 6, so you can do 5. You can immediately answer spontaneously, it's a Ganda Kuraippu 10. I'll also tell you the concept behind of what is the concept. If you look at 8 into 4, 32, and when you take 2 cycles of it, it's 64. So 64, when you wanted to logically reduce, no, there should be some grammar by which you can make it half. If you take one cycle, 32, and if you take only 4 aksharas down, you will not be able to reduce in a granular way. Like meaning like one round, the next round it gets over. So it's better you take a higher number. The higher number is a multiple of 32. The first easiest one is 64. We will use that as an example and then we will see how Misra Kuraippu can be played. If you take the multiple of 128, then you can take after 4 fingers typically. So 128 minus 16, if you reduce 112, if you can play If 112 is a factor of 7, so whatever is a factor of 7, then we can start using Misra Kuraippu from there. In our example, 64, we have taken two cycles, 32 plus 32, 64. So if you want to do Misram factor, the closest Misram factor to nearest to 64 is 56, which is divisible by 7. So we have to get to that number. So 56, if you have to play in a 64, you need to push 8 plus 56 is 64. So 8 aksharas you need to push, and then you will be able to tell all the sevens together. So taka dhimi, taka juna. Typically, again, this Kuraippu will be more ideal in Rattakale. I have not approached the concept of how to play in Rattakale Aadhi Thalam. I haven't yet come to. But typically these Kuraippu are played more interestingly in Rattakale, because when they put it, it's easier for the fellow artist also to follow. When you put a single beat cycle, you will not know, because the turns are very quick, you will not know what he's playing. In a 2-beat cycle in Rattakala Thalam, you will be able to know, granularly you will be able to understand and play this reduction in a much better way. Especially if you want to do a Nalukalai Pallavi or Ettukalai Pallavi, then it's much suitable, because you can choose so many varieties to exhibit your talent. Having said this base, we will get into the concept. Taka Dimmi, Taka Juna. I'm going to teach you. Aadhi Thalam is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This 8 becomes 16 when I every time do 2 times the same beat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So if I take this as an example, that is the most appropriate thing for doing the reduction. So we will go with this model, and I will actually teach you Rattakale how to play about it. It's slightly trickier. It's actually the same lesson, but you have to do it in a much with an aesthetic way. I'll teach you the way how to go about approaching Rattakale Thalam later. But for now, let's get into the concept of Misra Kuraippu. 1, 2. So you're pushing 2 fingers. Taka dimmi, taka junnu. So 8 syllables later, you're going to tell taka dimmi, takita. Taka dimmi, taka. Taka dimmi, takita. 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 Taka dimmi. Tadhim, genna, tanta. So when you start from here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, that's the first cut. Then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's the next placement. So 7, first part, the second part is 7. 7 plus 7, 14. You should have the breakup like that. In the first 7 beats, you are going to tell 4 takadimi takita. Taka dimmi takita, taka dimmi takita, taka dimmi takita, taka dimmi takita. Until then 4. Taka dimmi takita, taka dimmi takita, taka dimmi takita, taddi keta tonta. That is the first level of you are playing a Kuraippu. Now, when you want to do the next cycle, Kuraippu meaning itself, literal meaning in English is reduction. So you need to further reduce this paragraph into a shorter paragraph. From a 14-beat cycle, you're going to make the paragraph a 7-beat paragraph, which means after 1 takadimi, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that will be the next reduction phase. Taka dimmi, takita, taka dimmi, takita, taka dimmi, takita, taddi, keta, tanta. Taka dimmi, takita, taka dimmi, takita, taka dimmi, takita, taddi, keta, tanta. This is the next level of reduction. Now, again, first time you left 2 beats. Second time, you're leaving 1 beat. The third time, you have to leave half a beat. Taka. taka tadikita ton taka dimitakita tam tadikita ton taka dimitakita tam tadikita ton taka dimitakita tam tadikita ton taka dimitakita tam. After taka, you are repeating two taka dimitakita. Then what you are doing is further reduction. So 8 aksharas, 4 aksharas, 2 aksharas is done. Then half of 2 is 1. Tadding ginnatum, 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 tadding ginnatum. This is the further reduction of Misra Kuraippu. Now, after you reduce until this point, you might think, why Vishwa is telling Tadding so many times, 8 times. If you do it individually, it is 8 times. When you do it with fellow people, if more the people, then it will be very interesting, because the sound effects or the tonal effects of the other person's instrument is different. So Tadding when you play in Mridangam, and other person plays in Ganjira, other person plays in Gadam, other person plays in Morsing, then it gives a different color. That's why this reduction is special. And also it's positioned towards the end, finale. This Kuraippu cannot be played right up front. First of all, understand, this Kuraippu has to be played towards the end, where you're going to do, all of you going to exchange this dialogue mode as a form of this special Kuraippu, then get into this final reduction, and then get the crescendo where all of you play together. So this is positioned beautifully before you actually execute the Tanya, the solo performance. Before you culminate, before you end, and the crescendo you give, and right platform or the right position you give for the singer to take off from there, and you get the applause. So that's very, very special place Kuraippu has got in the Mridangam solo play. So having said that, then after you get into that, then you have to, with an aesthetic way, you have to play the Sarvalogu and get into the other forms which I have taught you in the general Kuraippu. You can use all those concepts, whatever I taught you as a general Kuraippu. Now, this is just a basic vanilla. Now, Takadimi Takita only I repeated. Now, this Takadimi Takita as a Swarupa in a different forms. We have to see what are all the forms. Dim, tadim, dakadim, dadim, don tadim, dadim, dakadim, dakita, tadim, tadim, dakadim, dadim, tadim, tadim, dakadim, dadim, dakadim, dakita. What I did is, tadim is a representation of a 7. Tadim is 4, tadim is 3. Takadimi takita is 7. So, representing 7 in a different annotation. The last two, as I told you, why I played a different form of, when you have listened, you might have listened a different form towards the end. It's nothing but a rule of any 2 Chatusra phrases is equal to 3 times repeating in Tisram. For example, Takadina, 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 2 Takadina. When you have to tell in the time space, same time space, Takadina, Takadina, Takadina. As I told you, as I explained you before, any 2 phrases is equal to that. Similarly, Tadim, Tadim, Takadim, Tadim is 2 Takadimi Takita. The two words use the same space, and you can do the Tisra pattern. Tadim, tadim, takadim, tadim, 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 takadim, tadim, takadim, tadim, tadim, takadim, tadim. So both are synonyms actually. So tadim, tadim, when you are playing as a different swarupa of takadimi takita, the first is So for any 2 of these tadim, tadim, takadim, takita, you can use the Tisra format of 3 times. That is one form. Then taga takita. Taha takita is another hidden form. Taha is 4, takita is 3. Ta takita ta. Takita ta. Takita ta. Takita ta. Takita ta. Takita ta. Takita takadim. Takita ta. That is another 8 takadimi takita in different ways you are playing. Takata dikita to takita dinta. 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 Tam. There's another way of representing. Now, these are the small samples of tadim, 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 takita takadina, tadim, 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 takita takadina, tadim, 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 takita takadina, dim. That's another form. Now, you can actually take the multiple of 7. Multiple of 7 is 7 plus 7, 14. The 14 Swarupa will give a different connotation. Ta, di, ta, tatak din, ta, di, ta, tatak din, tatak di, ta, tatak din, tam, tatak din, tam, tatak din, tam. Here, what is the explanation you would like to derive is ta, di, ta, tatakadina. Ta, di, ta is 3 plus 3 plus 3, 9. Tatakadina is 5. 9 plus 5, 14. So now 14, you are not representing as takadimi takita, but completely giving a different shape to 14. Ta, di, ta, tatakadina. Second is also the same thing. Ta, di, ta, tatakadina. So 2 14s makes it for the first 7 beats. The second 7 beats is special. Ta, di, ta, tatakadina is 14. Tam, tatakadina, tam, tatakadina. 2 plus 5, 2 plus 5. Tam is 2, tatakadina is 2, tatakadina is 5. Again, tam, tatakadina, tam, tatakadina. You are giving a different phrase of 14 and make it brilliant. Ta, di, ta, tatakadina, ta, di, ta, tatakadina, ta, di, ta, tatakadina, ta, di, ta, tatakadina, ta. You can completely represent like that. Another way, if you look at it, how we can improvise this. Ta, di, ta, tatakadina is 3, 3, 3. Now, if you take 2 as an earlier phrase and midpoint as 3 and 3 plus 1 as a later phrase, it gets a different complete connotation. Tadditam, tadiketa tanda, ti tang, tadiketa tandaga, tigi taga, tadiketa tanda, ti ta, tatakadinata. What you can do is, the first time when you represent, you use the vanilla. Ta, di, ta, tatakadina, ta, di, ta, tatakadina, ta, ti, ta, tatakadina, ta, tigi taga, tatakadinata. So it gives a completely, you may not know what you're doing, but this is what you are trying to manipulate the phrase in such a way to accommodate it, because maths is involved inside this. Another interesting phrase, tadikita tantaga tadikitatum. Interlude 5 and 5 position at this, both the side of a puzzle piece. Intermediately you have taha. Tadikita tantaga tadikitatum. How it comes, we will see the Thalam. Tadikitatantaga, tadikitatantaga, tadikitatum. It gets ended there. Tadikitatantaga, tadikitatantaga, tadikitatantaga. This is a phrase of 14 which gives a different connotation. Again, dhunta din, a representation of a 14 in a complete different dimension. Dhunta dhim, 3 plus 2. Dhumtha, dhumta, 3. Dim is 2. Dhumta dim, 5 plus 5 is 10. Taha, dhumta. Dhumta is taha is 4. 5 plus 5 plus 4 is 14. Using that 14, you can do a Misra Kuraippu. Donta din, donta din, donta, ta din, donta din, donta, donta din, donta din, donta, ta din, donta din, donta, dom. That's how we have to play. Now for every two you can play a Tisram. So now earlier what we saw is a very simple model of Takadina 2 times, making Takadina 3 times. Now this Dontadim, Domta, Domtadim, Domtadim, Domta itself is a phrase. That phrase twice, Domtadim, Domtadim, Domta 2, in that phrase you have to tell 3 times Dontadim, Domta, Dontadim, Domtadim, Domta, you have to tell. Then it becomes more interesting. Let's see how it goes. Donta din, donta din, donta, 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 donta. So, as you're telling, this donta din, donta, donta din, donta is exact Tisra form, you should get that. Donta din, donta din, donta, donta din, donta din, donta. Donta din, donta din, donta, donta din, donta din, donta, donta din, donta din, donta. You have to tell in an accurate Tisra format of the second part of it. You can actually manipulate playing the Tisram first and playing the Chatusram later. So the same concept of wherever you have Taddim, Tadim, Taddim, Tadim, wherever is there, you can play a 3 times Tisram and make it very, very interesting. These are all the various ideas by which you can actually use the Misra Nadai in a grandeur. Now another Misra format I could teach you is Taddi Kettatum Tadi Kettatum Tadikkedum. So which is a 21 Akshara phrase. Tadi Kettatum is 12. Tadi Kettatum 12. Half of 12, 6. Tadi Kettatum, half of 12, 6. Half of that Tadikkedum. It's a 3 different speeds. The 3 speeds, Trikalam phrase of Tadikitatum in the first speed, second speed and third speed put together is 21 Aksharas. So 21 is a factor of 7. So you have the 7, you can be, it is divisible by 7. So it will come for 3 Aksharas. So Takadimi Takita Tadi Kettatum Tadi Kettatum Tadikkedada Di Kettatum Tadi Kettatum Tadikkedada Di Kettatum. So you can do a reverse of 7 plus 21 and 21 plus 7. So that's a combination of doing a Kuraippu. So to sum up, so then the reduction, as I told you, after 2 fingers you have to push 1 finger and tell it for the Takadimi Tagita using these Swarupas, and then you can say. The 7 different other possibilities are Takita Dom, Tadikita Dom. Takadinatam, Tadikita Dom. Taga, Takita Tadikita, Taga, Takita Dom, Tadikita Dom. Taka Tadikita Dom, Takita Dinta. All these are phrases of 14 in an intelligent way. Takita, Takadimi, Takatakita. Here Takita, Takadimi, Takatakita. 3, 4, 5, you are pushing, which is 3 plus 4 plus 5 is 12. Interlude, you give a gap, it makes it 14. So, takita, takadimi, takita, takadimi, takita, takadimi, takita, takadimi, takita, the last time you reverse. So it makes it very intelligent, Mr. Kuraippu. So the elements, what you need to choose is important. First of all, the rule of thumb is first understand what is Mr. Kuraippu, that you know. So from 64 to 56 after 2 fingers. Then give a swarupa of 7 in a different format. Tadim, 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 takatadikitatum, takita takadina, takadina takita, taga takita, takita tak, takita tak, takita tak, takita din ta. All these are 7. Then ta, ti, ta, tatakadina. Another interesting phrase, ta, di, ki, ta, takata, di, ki, ta, taka. So 3 times, 3 syllable phrase 4 times is 12, and taka you can play towards the end. Ta, ti, ki, ta, takata, ti, ki, ta, takadana, ti, ki, ta, takadana, ti, ki, ta, kadakada. So it sounds very aesthetic and reverberant. So this 14, how best you can represent. Tadikita tantaga, tadikita tum. Again, it's a good phrase of 14. Tadikita tantaga, tadikita tum. Taka tadikita tadin, tadin, ta. Taka tadikita tadin, tadin, ta. Tadikita takadin, ta. All these are 7 phrases, 7 syllabled phrases. You can use it beautifully and then play in Mr. Kuraippu. So these are all the ideas. I want you to think about it and then use all these phrases appropriately in a sequential manner. And then when you end it in Misra Kuraippu, typically you play with 9 sevens. 9 sevens are 63 in Aadhi Thalam. Aadhi Thalam is a 64 beat cycle. After one beat, one akshara, if you say 9 taddi, then you can start the Sarvalagu and the Farans and Mora and Korve you can play. Taddi ketatan, 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 tataka din, taka din, mitaka junu din, taddi, ditaka din, mitati, ditaka din, tungkartika din, tungkartika din, tungkartika din. All these reduction concepts. Or you can play some Sarvalagu patterns, interesting patterns, and then you go into this reduction, or whatever the variations possible you can all do. So this Kuraippu is appropriately played, have to be positioned before the crescendo. That you have to understand. Then the different forms of 7 you have to understand. You have to practice all those things. And also the speed by which you play. The Tadikita, when you play in a normal speed, you can play double Tadikita. You can also play that. Taka dimmi takita, 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 taka dimmi takita. All those 2 speed, if your hand is good enough to play in the same time space, a higher speed, and that gives a different dramatic impact. So these are all the aspects. This class is more a concept explanation, and where I have taught you enough of what are the ways you can go about doing it. We need to have individual reviews for especially going through these advanced concepts, but this is more an overview of how to go about Misra Kuraippu in different dimensions. Hope you enjoyed this class. Use all these ideas. We will have independent reviews, and then we will strengthen your understanding with real-time examples. And I also want you to work on these phrases, and we will see how it goes on one-on-one basis. Poonaraviya signing off with the Thirukural. I'll see you in the next class with Rupaka Thalam, Kanta Kuraippu. Similar understanding I will try to provide. Kalladan Solga Murudal Mulai Irandum Illadal Pen Kamutru Atru. What is the meaning of it? Kalladavan Thanum Avigil Pesa Vendum என்று விரும்புதல். A person who had not learnt, and if he likes to speak in the public place or in a conference, இரண்டு முளைகளும் இல்லாத ஒருத்தி பெண்மையை விரும்பியது போலாகும். A girl who is not fit enough or qualified as a woman and tries to talk about feminism. And that's what Thirullar strongly compares, and one has to be quiet if he is not sufficiently knowledgeable. With this good thought, I'm ending this class. Hope you got a good orientation of how to go about Misra Kuraippu in Aadhi Thalam. Next class, I will cover the generic topic of how to go about the Ganda Kuraippu in Rupaka Thalam. Until then, Puvanur RVA signing off.
Mm-hmm.